with the soft information. I just want the public mark to be just right. No pressure at all.
I can't handle that kind of pressure. Jeez.
Go get him.
Golly. Yeah, I'm Baby Bear. I look like it. I was not going to bring the baby bottle. I really wanted to give me a prop or two to do this part of the talk. I am really pleased to be here to share with you really what is good, awesome, beautiful, great, good news. You know what the good news is? It starts with this. What is that the church's teachings on sexuality really can't be reduced to 3 words that most people think it's reduced to. You know what those 3 words are, right? No, no, and no. Right? It's usually when people think this. You know, what's the church teaching about sex? No, 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 no. That is incorrect. What we have on the gift of our sexuality is something that is so beautiful, so powerful, so potent. And this really, let me put it this way, is the plus side, the positive side, the negative image of what we're getting in our popular culture and in our pornified culture that has so disfigured and mangled what is meant to be an awesome and beautiful gift for interpersonal communion, for love, for life, and for true happiness that God built into our nature. And what was it that we were built for? I am going to take this and walk for him. What were we built for? Why have you and I been made in the first place? That's a good question. You ever find yourself asking that question sometimes? Why am I here? It might have something to do with me. Usually, to me, it's usually when I'm standing in one of those ungodly, awful sections in Walmart. Why am I even here? But in general in life, why am I here? That question can be reduced to 1 word: love. I've been made out of and for love. And another way of putting it is, I have been made for communion. And communion is a word for becoming one with another. And we've been made out of a communion of persons. Most literally, typically, right? You know, out of the communion of husband and wife, man and woman. And in that loving embrace, that love takes on its own flesh and bones and body, a child. And I've been made out of and for love. Now we have all kinds of, and we're hearing it, and we see all kinds of evidence of distortions of that incredible, rich, beautiful gift of love. But it is, and let's acknowledge it, it is a distortion. Something, you can't have a distortion or a perversion without the good that has been distorted or perverted. So let's do what Jesus did in the gospel. When he said, let's go back to the beginning. Right? When Jesus was questioned about a fundamental in marriage and divorce, for instance, he talked about, let's go back to the beginning. In the beginning, it was not so. Now, what does God teach us about the beginning in terms of our nature as human persons? Well, we're told that we're made in the image of likeness in God, right? Did you ever read that quote in full context? Here we go. I need to get my arms a little bit longer. All right. All right, here we go. So, thank you, I'm good. I think I'm good. I really got it memorized, so. All right. So, God created man in his image. In the divine image, he created him, male and female, he created them. So when we're told that God makes the human person in the divine image, right away goes to being differentiated, male and female, set up in a complementary fashion. And God blessed them. And what is the blessing that God gives? It comes along with a commandment. And you know what that commandment is? Well, let me read how it says it here, and I'll give you a translation. So God blessed them, saying, be fertile and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it. what commandment is God giving? God blessed them saying, be fertile and multiply. I'm pretty sure in the Garden of Eden there weren't adoption agencies, nor were there any fertility clinics. So when God blesses them and says, be fertile and multiply, God is saying, husband and wife, have sex and lots of it. That's what it says. And it's not gross. What the church teaches us, which is what the scripture teaches us, is that sex is a beautiful gift of our created order that is not dirty. It's not gross. Even as little kids, when they're starting to figure things out, it's like, oh, wait a minute. But as we grow into this and come to a Christian maturity that can be a Christian maturity and an understanding of the human person as a person made in God's image and likeness for communion of persons, well, then we start to see that we have been made with a rich and beautiful gift, and that communion of persons can be affected in a number of ways. There are emotional, psychological, and spiritual communion, and there is this incredibly rich and privileged form of a physical communion of man and woman made in God's image and likeness that is capable of imaging the very God who made them and you. Exactly. Awesome. So, it's like, yeah, you preach it, fine. So, what he's saying is that God made us in this way. And if we were made in this way, in our created order, it's beautiful. God looked at everything he had made, including this rich gift of sexuality in man and woman, and called it good. And in fact, on the last day, when he creates man and woman, he says, God looked at what he had created and saw that it was very good. This is very good. And what we have a mission ourselves as parents, educators, pastors, and so on, is to look to the good, the very good, and to do something about defending the good, the very good, and upholding its goodness and dignity. So now we have been made in God's image and likeness in such a way that we have the capacity for what? For love. The capacity for love. Now all love, and so this is the mistake our culture makes so often, is that love is sex and sex is love. And we talk about having sex and getting some, right? Which is exactly the opposite of what love is meant to be. Love is not about having and getting, it's about giving and making a gift of ourselves. And so what we are called to do is to make a gift of ourselves in loving communion and service with those whom God has given to us. We've been placed in this world with others around us, and we're called, therefore, to make a gift of ourselves to others around us. There is a privileged form of communication between husbands and wives. What we are able to do that is different than other creatures and all the face of the earth is that we, body, soul entities, we don't just have a body, our bodies is part of our human nature. We have a body and a soul, a spiritual principle that you can't see, and a physical principle that you can. Put the two together as the human person. Okay? And we are capable of making a gift of ourselves, and ourself includes that spiritual principle. We talk about the heart, the mind, the soul, what you can't see. But we have evidence of, and we use all kinds of symbolic language to convey what you can't see. Anybody ever see an idea walking down the street? We saw all kinds of evidence of ideas walking down the street, right? But we don't see the ideas. I can't see your thoughts. I can't read your mind. I know more than one husband that has said, I can't read her mind, even if you want. But more seriously, we can't read each other's minds.
We can become more and more intuitive about things, but how do we communicate and become one, more and more united with one another? Through communication. The word communication means to make one with, to unite with. And how do we do that? How do we communicate? We certainly use words, outward symbols. The word chair isn't the chair itself, right? I'm going to break the chair. The word chair is a symbol that points to a reality. Okay? Kind of calls to mind a certain kind of chair. We use all kinds of words. We use gestures, outward gestures. And a lot of our gestures and the body language, I suggest, is so rich and powerful. We have all kinds of body language, much of which doesn't really need to be taught. We don't have to teach body language to that little toddler running around back there. He knows a smile, what it looks like, and what it means. He knows a frown. Right? You don't have to teach little kids. All right, when I do this, that means I'm not really happy with you right now. Or when I go, oh my gosh, that means I'm so in love with you. We don't have to teach that. It has its meaning embedded right in it. When I come up, it's perfect. When I come up to my friend Seth here, and I say, Seth, it's great to see you. Pow, crack you across the face. Well, that's what I mean by, that gesture of a slap across the face, that's my way of saying, I'm really thrilled to see you. To which you'd say, what? Come right back at me. No, that has its meaning in the very gesture itself. And I can't change that meaning. Okay? Now, maybe you see where I'm going with this, maybe you don't. We have powerful forms of body language, and the meaning of that body language expressing in an outward way with our bodies has a meaning to it. Try as I might, I can't change the meaning of a slap across the face. And try as every culture has since the fall of our first parents, the meaning of the body language of the sexual self-gift can't really be changed. It's built into our nature. And what is being said outwardly, what is being expressed in the sexual embrace of man and woman? Well, I love you. We have to, in our English language use of the word love, we have to spend a little time talking about that. But let's just say it's a whole lot deeper than, man, I love pizza, or something like that, okay? We use that word a lot. I love you as in I'm making a gift of myself to you. Everything about myself. I'm handing my life over to you. I'm willing to lay down my life for you. In big ways and in small ways. I'm making a gift of myself and I accept you without conditions and everything about you. That's what I mean when I'm saying I love you with that kind of body language. I'm saying I love you, and it's you and me in this form of relationship. You and me only. It's an exclusive fidelity type of love. I love you enough to lay down my life for you. In fact, I want to spend my life with you. I'm willing to stick around for the long haul should we have any children as a result of this. I'm open to children because, you know what? I love you so much I'd like to see more of you. And more mini-me's of you even, you know? All of that is caught up in that kind of body language. And try as we might, we can't change the meaning of it. It's built right into our nature. It's a beautiful thing. It's a holy thing. It's a holy and beautiful thing for which we have been made in a privileged form of self-communication that is meant to be taken up into the ultimate gift of love that could ever have been given, and that is God, who took on human flesh and spoke the ultimate word of body language by becoming one of us and saying to the human race, I love you. I give myself to you. I'm willing to lay down my life for you, and I pour everything of myself out for you, and I'm willing to pay the price for this gift, that you might have life and have it in abundance. And every self-gift in the sexual embrace is meant to say, I give everything and I accept everything. And may it give life, if not literally in another person in the form of a baby. I give life as in what I'm saying here in the bedroom, I mean to live out every day in and day out, in our day-to-day living, in such a way that I can make a sacrificial self-gift of myself. How can I serve you? It's not about getting, it's about giving. That's the great, good, and glorious news of the gospel applied to this aspect of our human person and the sexuality that is part of our human nature as male and female, made in God's image and likeness. It's a privileged form of communication that should be spoken honestly in the context of marriage, which is the only context that can really be spoken totally, completely, without reserve, honestly. Open to life, honestly. Exclusive, you and me only, honestly. And when spoken with honesty, it can be spoken with a freedom and a joy and an abandon that really is adventurous and awesome and fulfilling. That is beautiful, good news. And everything else that we see in the culture that twists, turns, and renders somewhat degraded or self-serving what is meant to be this awesome gift, it is a perversion. It's a distortion. But it's not the first principle. The beginning and the first principle is this beautiful, holy, awesome gift. And what we have as a responsibility as parents and teachers, educators, pastors, is to help our young people understand what a beautiful gift this is. It's not dirty. It's holy. So let's treat it as such and be thankful to God for that gift. And let's pray for the grace that our kids will recognize and be respectful of that gift. Not just in themselves, but their brothers and sisters and their future husbands and wives. Let's look out for each other. Indeed. I think they said, time's up, Father. So, thanks for your attentiveness tonight. Thanks, and I hope what you can do is take some of that awesome good news and then some of the great information you received from the first two speakers, John and Megan, and be reinvigorated to do the best that you can do to look out for the safety of your children, the integrity and the wholeness of your children, and that we might form them to become good, really good moms and dads, husbands and wives. That day will come a whole lot faster than we bargained for. I'm looking, and that's I think I'm going to just wrap it up with that because we got to move on to the next thing. I didn't even, I set my timer and then I didn't start it.
I had a feeling that might be.
No. Well, then I got on a roll. I only got to chapter 1 of the Bible. I was ready to go about 40, but anyways, God made you in His image and likeness, and I pray that you'll continue to live up to that gift, that self-giving to which you're called, that love to which you're called. Let's do that properly and speak the language of love honestly with one another.
So much great information. Thank you so much. Folks, we've got 3 things that we need to do at this time. Number 1, I'm sure that's a lot of information from all 3 of the speakers. Please got something has clicked a question in your head. If so, this is the time to put something down on paper. Maybe you're not a writer. Maybe you're willing to write it, say it out loud. We figured giving you the option to write out a question is, I don't know, with these subjects, sometimes it's easier for folks to write it out than actually to say it out loud. I'm not afraid to have you speak it out as well if you're more comfortable with that. Secondly, I know this is also a chance for you to share some wealth. So there's some great ideas that maybe are striking you, and you're seated in little clusters around here. This is going to be we're going to give you 5 minutes to talk amongst yourselves. Like, is there an insight that you've just taken, or is there something that you feel like you really need to share that you have already learned and it has been working real well for you? That's number 2. And number 3, we're going to in just a moment, get the 3 speakers up and just field a few questions to finish us up until the 8 o'clock hour. And then after that, there's still some treats. If you didn't give them up for Lent, then you can have those. All right. So questions, share the wealth, and get ready for Q&A. Thanks. Mrs. Myers is passing around the basket if you've gotten any of those questions.